that was when I was like, something has to change. I can't be 40 years old recovering from a double mastectomy and thinking that this is the best time in my life. But to your point about burnout, like it's very scary, right? Because you lose yourself. Like you don't recognize yourself.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think that moment of so how do you make your way back to finding yourself again?
Yeah,
How do
that's
you make your way back into that space? And to Shira, I'm just going to keep coming back to what you said about this courageous conversation. And I think that where that emergency brake gets pulled, Margot, to your point, like, where do we go from here is really getting present, because joy isn't an outcome, right? Joy is not something that we can get to. It's not a destination, it's not an
mhm.
outcome. If I just have enough medals, then I'll be joyful. If I'm free of cancer, then I'll be joyful. If it's not like this thing and then I will. To me, joy is a frequency that rushes into your life from being devotionally present to your life as it is. And that's where I found myself being like, wait, hold on. Who am I? What has happened? And then it's gradual, right? It's gradual. Where have I let myself continually say yes when I really meant no?
Mm-hmm.
Where have I continually allowed myself to be called by outside forces instead of inside forces? And
I've just got to,
yeah.
I've got to stop you, Nellie. I'm sorry, because what we say in the South is you preaching. And you are preaching to not just my soul, but I'm sure everyone who is under the sound of your voice. And there is something about just your intonation and the cadence of your voice that is powerful right now. And so I
Wow,
just have to
thank you.
pause and say that, because speaking of frequency, I think the vibration right now is just so high, and I'm grateful. But please
Oh,
continue.
so Shira, thank you, and Margot, thank you. I'm
Oh,
I'm honored to be able to be here with you in this. I'm passionate about it because I really believe that we are not meant to be on the earth to burn ourselves out. We're not meant to live in the ashes of our spirit. We are meant to be in this full, robust incarnation of our spirit and our soul. And I do think that for me, I had to pull the emergency brake. I did have to stop a lot of the things that were happening in my life. Gratefully, one of the things that stopped on its own was the fact that Kevin, 10 months after after the start of his clinical trial, recovered and is in full remission from cancer. And that was a great, profound, deep relief and release.
Absolutely.
And not
Congratulations.
everybody is that lucky, right? But for me, that was my personal circumstances. And then also I chose to leave the seat of co-CEO of the business. And I'm wrapping up my last couple of weeks right now in the transition. But not everybody's form of recovering from burnout needs to be that extreme.
we've
I
talked about
do
that.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, and for me, there's really four paths to recovering, to setting yourself free, to making your way back to joy, back to aliveness, and each one comes through the presence, the doorway of presence. And I think the first one is to take breaks so that the momentum of your meetings is interrupted. And sometimes that break can just be eat your lunch, number one, eat your lunch with a fork that's real, and put your lunch on a plate. Now, this seems so
Put your lunch on a plate.
mundane. This seems so mundane, but how many times are we eating lunch out of a wrapper,
Mm-hmm.
out of styrofoam, in front of a screen?
Mm-hmm.
Put your lunch on a plate, eat with a fork, and taste your food.
And for
That
me,
would
it's
say that's
standing.
like
Sit down.
a
Yeah.
standing. Right. And so I would say take a break. The second one is I think do one thing in nature a day. It doesn't need to be an hour. If you've got an hour, great. But do one thing. I take my dog on a walk every morning before the day gets going, and that walk, I don't bring my phone, I don't bring earphones. It's just a time for me to do the thing that's in front of me. Walk.
Beautiful.
Look at the sky, acknowledge what it looks like, what the weather is. The third one I would say is move your energy. For me, that was weep the unwept tears.
Mm.
Weep the unwept tears with your girlfriends, with your partner, alone. But moving the energy could also look like working out. It could also look like breath work. It could look like dancing to music. It could be, you know, going to a concert. It could be putting on one 3-minute pop song that you love and just getting crazy in your kitchen. But you move the energy, because burnout is also a state of stagnancy.
Mm.
And moving the energy in some way through some form of expression helps it unlock from its freeze position. And then the last one is a line from a poem that one of my other teachers wrote. It's called, the poem is called Blessing for One Who is Exhausted. And the line is, be excessively gentle with yourself. Be excessively gentle with yourself. And I think these 4 things, all 4 of them are free. All 4 of them don't need you to go to India and study with a guru. And, you know, all 4 of them are very actionable, everyday, free moments that can bring ourselves, our spirit back into the body and reconnect us with who we know ourselves to be. And gradually we'll come back to ourselves with a new respect for our needs, a new respect for who we desire to become, and a new respect for what brings us joy, which is always the pathway through presence.